Are you looking for affordable land? Today, I'm going to go over our list of affordable owner finance properties and answer the question, can you make money from land without touching the dirt? And spoiler, yes, through the air. We'll cover that shortly. But first, here's the full agenda for today. So I'll go over some property updates, what's coming up, what's on hold. I'll do our deal of the day, and then we're going to talk about air rights, all the things you should know, and how people make money using air rights. Then we'll wrap up with a fun fact of the day and our free gift. So let's get started. Okay, so for anyone who's new here, I'm Erica. I have a company, Gokche Capital. I buy and sell vacant land. The website is gokchecapital.com. You can find all of our properties by clicking Buy Land at the top. Oh, hi, Zafael. Good to see you again. Yeah, let's, hopefully I can answer all your questions. If not, we can do part 2. But yeah, if you want to see all of our properties, you can click Buy Land at the top or go to land.gokcap.com. So we do have a number of properties. We work throughout the U.S. right now. A lot of our properties are in North Carolina, Florida, New York, New Mexico, and then we have one in Oregon, Colorado, and we actually have 2 new properties in South Carolina. And in the upcoming weeks and days, we're going to be getting a lot more properties in New Mexico, Nevada, and Colorado. So keep a lookout for that. And I also wanted to note, I mentioned this yesterday on the live stream. Hi, Joshua. Good to see you. So I mentioned this yesterday on the live stream, but we did implement a new feature. If you scroll down, you'll see a table with all of our properties, and we now list the 3 most viewed properties. So you can see if your property of interest is getting a lot of views. If it has, it would probably be a good idea to put it on hold since many people are looking at it and potentially interested in it. So right now, our most viewed are our Gilmer County property. And then I think it's the same as yesterday, our Castilla County property and one of our new South Carolina properties in Bamberg County. We also added our 3 value picks, so you can look at those on the table as well, just to see which ones we've selected as the value picks for people who are hunting for a deal. Okay, so today's deal of the day is going to be our most viewed property, highlighting that since it does appear to be popular. This is our Castilla County property. And it's funny, I would not have guessed that this would be the most popular one, although we did just get drone footage of this property. You can see it here. I was quite impressed by the drone footage. It's actually quite pretty out here. That shouldn't be surprising because Colorado in general is a very pretty state. But you can see from the footage how pretty this area is. And this is a 5-acre lot. There are views of the mountains. The lot itself is flat, though. And it is zoned residential. There's no HOA, so very few restrictions. Now, this would be an off-grid lot. We've talked about off-grid on a couple live streams, so just keep that in mind. This is a very rural property, best for someone who's prepared for off-grid living or who's looking for a recreational lot or an investment lot. I'll also note, I haven't researched wells in this area. I've heard on some lots here, the well depth can be very deep. So if you are going to build and do the off-grid build thing, you might want to consider that water hauling would be the best option, depending on what the water table looks like on this particular lot. And Zafael saying, get me the properties with mining rights above the top secret base in Nevada. You want an Area 51 lot? Well, we can look into that. Actually, should I cover Area 51 on a live stream, that might just be a fun like topic. I guess it's kind of related to land, right? Maybe I can do that tomorrow. That might be fun, just for fun, you know. So yes, that's a little overview of this property. I'll also note that according to our research, of course, you should always confirm yourself, Castilla County does allow camping for up to 14 days without a permit, although full-time living in an RV wouldn't be allowed. So this could be a camping recreational lot as well, since, as you can see from these photos, it's really looks really beautiful. I haven't been to Castilla County yet myself, but I think I'm going to put that on the list of places to visit maybe next summer or in the winter. We do have to get back to Colorado. I love Colorado. It's so pretty. I'll just wrap this segment up by saying the current price is $9,997. That's the cash price. But because this is for sale by owner, we do offer owner financing, and we will tailor those terms to work for you. So just let us know what monthly payment and down payment will work, and we'll try to make the property meet your budget. There's also no minimum credit score requirement. So if you're worried about your credit, you can still go ahead and ask for owner financing. That's not a problem. Finally, I've noted this on the last couple live streams, but we do have a new hold policy. So in general, all of our for sale by owner properties you can hold while you do your due diligence. I know that's very important when buying land. Hi, Abby. So I know it's very important to do your research when buying land. That's why we do allow a hold. It's $50 for 2 days, and you can hold for up to 8 days. The hold fee will be credited towards your purchase price if you move forward with the purchase. You do, though, have to purchase within 30 days. So there's a 30-day period during which you can apply the hold fee. And we recently changed the hold policy to allow you to apply your hold fee to another property if you do your research and decide a different property is actually better for you. You just have to buy the property within 30 days of paying the hold fee. So you have 30 days to apply the hold fee to any property you would like. So I was excited about that new policy because I think it helps you do your research and find the property that will really work for you. Where do we call home? We're originally from New York. We are a New York company, but we now are in the Nevada area. So, okay. Erica, did it cover? I did cover the most viewed features, but since you brought it up, I will share it again. That's why we were doing Castilla County as our deal of the day, because it is our most viewed property. So Abby's very excited about this feature. It was his idea. He implemented it. He's our website expert. But yes, you can see our 3 most viewed properties now, as well as our 3 value picks. So keep a lookout for that. It changes in real time. So you'll see it change if you watch our listing page over a couple days. Okay, let's get into the meat of today's topic. Yeah, I know, no one likes New York, do they? Which is a shame. Upstate New York is really pretty. We've had a number of properties in upstate New York that we've sold. I like upstate New York a lot. It's a beautiful country. You do have to be prepared for the winter, though. I'll say that. All right. Okay, so let's get into the meat today. We were going to talk about air rights. There was a request. Abby, I think you wanted me to talk about air rights, right? So let's talk about them. Because some people, I know it sounds like an obscure topic, but some people actually make money with air rights, including our current president, which we'll cover a little bit later. But let's start with the definition of air rights. So if you think of land like a layer cake, you can own the ground and you can also own the sky above it, up to a certain height. Once you go really high up, it becomes public space, so airplanes can make their way around the world. But in general, you can own the ground and you can own the air and you can actually own the subsurface as well. So land rights are like a layer cake. Because you own a certain portion of the air, that does mean, in some instances, that air right can be severed and sold separately. The legal definition of air rights is as follows. They're a type of development rights. They allow you to control and develop a specific amount of airspace above the ground. A property has air rights if either the property is fully vacant or the improvements on the property are smaller than state and local laws permit. So what that means is if you have a property, say in a city, where you can build a skyscraper that's 100 stories tall, but the property only has a single-family home on it, that would mean you have about 99 stories of air rights on that property that are unused and can potentially be sold. Oh, quick question from Zafael. Have you watched Andrew Camarata before on YouTube? I haven't. I'll have to look him up. What kind of subject matter does he cover? Maybe we can. 500 feet is the minimum drone level in the USA. That is a good point. Let's confirm that. Now, I did mention above a certain height, all airspace is public, so airplanes can go, but drones, of course, are another story. They fly at a lower level, so they are going to be flying through what would still be private property. And that opens up a whole another question of rights. So the FAA does regulate maximum altitude of 400 feet above ground level and within 400 feet of a structure. Although there is no specific minimum altitude for drones, but they must operate in a way that's not hazardous to people or property on the ground. And let's see, Andrew Camarata, I hope I'm pronouncing his last name correctly. He made a container castle on his property. Does a lot of earthwork in interesting. I'm surprised I haven't heard of him before. I'll have to look him up. Maybe I can use him as a case study in an upcoming live stream. Thank you. I have my research to do now. So I'll look into that as soon as this live stream is over. All right, so those are the basics of air rights. As I was alluding to, you can actually sever air rights, or that is to say, separate air rights from the right to the surface, the actual surface of the land. And that means you can sell them if you aren't planning on developing a large structure on the property. 400 feet. Yeah. Well, I would confirm that. I just asked ChatGPT. So just to go off of air rights, though, the lowest altitude where air rights kick in, apparently courts and the FAA generally recognize that landowners have rights to the immediate reaches of the airspace. Couldn't say that in a simpler way. Landowners have rights to the immediate airspace above their property. According to one court case, that's usually considered up to 83 feet. Above that, it is considered navigable airspace controlled by the FAA. So in practice, property owners can object to drones flying very low on their property. say, especially if it's close to improvements like a rooftop, livestock pen, etc. But if it's couple hundred feet up, they might have a hard time objecting. AI is always right. We'll see. Sometimes I've gotten some interesting answers from ChatGPT. So I usually try to verify whatever ChatGPT says. But I do use the paid version, which is a little better. And I think their latest updates are also much better. But so that's just some quick little ChatGPT research here. If we're talking about air rights specific to drones, it does look like if you're below 83 feet, you may very well be getting in the way of private property owners' air rights. Be a good idea to fly higher than that. And if you're a property owner concerned about drones, 83 feet, at least according to this court case, seems to be the magic number for where you have right to object to people flying things in your airspace, and also if they're flying near any of your improvements. I'm sure this is going to become more and more of an issue as time goes on. First, New York, now I'm losing audience by the second. It seems like if you can shoot a drone with your shotgun, it is flying too low. Should we make that the rule of thumb? If someone can hit your drone with a shotgun, you're probably flying too low. That seems like a reasonable rule of thumb for drone pilots and property owners. Although I should not advocate shooting anything on this podcast or live stream. Okay. But in terms of how you make money from air rights, you would make money by selling them. So separating them and selling them off to somebody who would like to develop a tall structure. This is often done in urban areas where someone wants to build a tall building, but theoretically, it could also apply in a rural context for things like maybe antennas or wind turbines, possibly even billboards, anything that's fairly tall. The important point here, though, is that zoning does need to allow tall structures. So you're not going to have, if zoning limits the height of all structures in the area to only like 30 feet, you don't really have much in the way of air rights. Like, if no one can develop in the air, they're not going to be worth much, right? So that's Supreme Court justice. I need to go back to law school first. But I'm sure there are many, many more. Maybe you should be a Supreme Court justice, Raphael. You seem like you know a lot more than I do. So when we're talking about air rights, it's also very important that you look at the local zoning laws to see what kind of restrictions there are on tall structures. And that's why the sale of air rights is not as common as something like mineral rights. It happens mostly in cities, but as I said, in a rural context, it might apply in the context of like wind turbines or antennas, cell phone towers, things like that. And the last thing I'll say just on the legal side of air rights is that like all other property rights, including mineral rights, surface rights, the air rights do transfer with the deed as long as they haven't been severed. So it's part of that whole package. Again, owning property is kind of like owning a layer cake. You start out with all the layers intact, you own them all, the whole cake transfers every time. But if you eat a layer or sell it, then it's gone. It's no longer part of your package. That's one way to think of it. And air rights will transfer with the deed unless you specifically sever them or sell them off to a developer to develop them. And we can look at a quick case study of how this worked in practice. It does involve our current president. But the Trump Tower in New York City, if anyone's been to New York City, they've probably seen it. The Trump Tower actually involved an air rights deal. Because Donald Trump owned a parcel of land, he wanted to build a luxury skyscraper, but zoning laws, and let's see, I think emailing Trump now. No, we'll see what he says about that application. All right, so in New York City, on the particular parcel of land that Trump wanted to develop, the local zoning laws capped the maximum height of a building at around 38 stories. Trump wanted a taller building because it would be more profitable. And he happened to be next to a building that had not used all of its air rights, so it hadn't built all the way up to the allowable height, the 38 stories under zoning. This is the Tiffany & Co. building. So this building, because it hadn't built all the way to its allowable height, actually had an extra 20 stories of air rights that it could sell. And it did sell those stories to Donald Trump for $5 million. And that air right transfer allowed Donald Trump to build 20 extra stories, even though zoning had capped his building at 38. It was fairly lucrative for the Tiffany & Co. building. They got $5 million for basically doing nothing. And Donald Trump built his extra tall skyscraper. And this kind of deal is not uncommon in New York City, where you have a lot of older buildings that are a little bit shorter than current regulations. Again, in a rural context, it's a little bit different, but you can have similar deals when you're talking about wind turbines or antennas or other tall structures. It can also work with cell towers and communication towers. Another interesting way that you might be able to make money from air rights in a rural context. I brought up Trump Tower. Oh, darn. I guess I won't be a Supreme Court justice after all. No. Air rights are transferable. Yes, they are, just like other rights. In New York City in particular, they do allow that. There are a number of deals like this one that have happened because of the transfer of air rights. In other jurisdictions, it might be a little bit different. But they are a right that, in certain areas at least, can be transferred or bought and sold. So, yeah. That's how it works in New York City, basically. You transfer the extra undeveloped space from one building to another. So the adjacent building is taller than what's allowed by zoning, and then the building that sold its air rights is now permanently capped at the lower level. That makes sense. In a rural context, another interesting way that you may be able to make money from air rights is to sell a scenic or conservation easement. This would be similar to a regular conservation easement, but basically you're saying there will be no future vertical development on the land as a way to protect the views. And you get money for selling that vertical space, but then you can never develop tall structures on the land moving forward, basically forever. So I can cover conservation easements in another live stream, but that's an example of how air rights can apply in a rural context. Okay, so this is kind of like a little more obscure topic. It's interesting in certain cities, it can be more important than in others. But for our fun fact of the day, another New York City building, but the Empire State Building, just like the Trump Tower, wouldn't have existed without air rights. The developers also made that work by buying the air rights from neighboring properties so they could build to the full height of the current Empire State Building. So in New York City, when you're looking at really tall towers, it's likely that air rights transfer was involved. Well, the New York City zoning code is quite complex. You could make a number of comments about it. In general, they do try to cap heights because of shadows. They don't want too many super tall buildings because they make the streets very dark. Another way that they try to prevent streets from being overly shadowed is if you've walked around New York, you see buildings that kind of look like a cake. They get narrower as you get taller. That's also part of the zoning regulation to try and allow some more light to come through as the building gets taller. Just speaking, and then Zapael says, just speaking from a development perspective, many utilities get around putting up wind farm structures because they're public utilities and under state regulation. Sorry, could you explain that comment? Oh, a visual. Let's see. New York City. Let's see if that pulls. Something like this. You see how it's getting narrower as it gets taller? That was part of zoning for a while. I think it still is. But it's a way to try and allow a little more light to get down to the street when you're talking about tall buildings. Maybe there's a better image here. Oh yeah, here. Like here's a classic example of that. Or this one. All right. So and we are just on time, which leads us to our free gift. And I'm sorry, I will fix this. So we do have our 17 simple ways to generate income from land in 2025. The link to that will be in the description and the pinned comments. And for anyone who's watching, we do have our discount of the day because I highlighted our Colorado property. This is a discount for $150 off our Colorado property. This one here in Castilla County. The code is LiveCO150, and it's good until midnight tonight, but you can also hold the property today, and that coupon code will be applied if you purchase later. All you have to do is go to land.gocap.com, click buy or hold, and when you do that, there'll be a place to put in the coupon. And we do have new properties in the pipeline. We'll be closing on, in the upcoming days, a number of properties in Nevada, New Mexico, and I believe a few in Colorado as well. Castilla was really popular, so I'm hoping we'll bring some new Castilla County properties to market very soon too. In Zapael, you're saying Gokce Capital in some states, local county and zoning regulations do not pertain at all to utilities. Oh, yeah. Oh, so you're saying that they're able to put up wind turbines even in areas where they're not allowed because local zoning regulations don't apply to them. That sounds like that would make sense. I mean, I can see why you would give utilities a little more leeway. Otherwise, it could be pretty difficult to install all the infrastructure you need to. But I'm sure it can have some unintended consequences as well. So yes, keep an eye out for New Mexico, Nevada, and Colorado. And you can view all of our properties at land.gocap.com. Why would it make sense? Well, in some areas, I'll look that up. I have a couple things I can talk about in future live streams now. Maybe we can look at utilities and how they work. I'll look this up. And I did say maybe we could just do a fun live stream on Area 51, since it is somewhat related to land. So maybe we can do that tomorrow just for fun, talk about Area 51. And I will look up, Zafael, who was it? Andrew Camerata, and I'll look up the 10 Mile Creek Complex. Yeah, that makes sense. It does actually make sense to me. If you think about some cities have very complicated zoning codes, and it might be pretty difficult for utilities to build new infrastructure if they didn't have a workaround. But yep. So I will be back tomorrow at 2 p.m. In the meantime, you can view all our properties at land.gocap.com, and I have some homework. Zafael, you gave me some homework to look up a few new things. Looking forward to that. Thank you, everyone who joined me today on Sunday. I hope you have a wonderful Sunday afternoon, and I'll see you tomorrow.